2 years ago, we paid $5,000 to plant 120 privacy trees. Some of those trees did this, but most of the trees did this. Let's talk about why some of our trees died, like really died, and others thrived. Welcome back to our Little Mountain Life. My name is Don, and yes, 2 years ago we planted all those trees. The idea is that we wanted more privacy up here on our little mountain. We've had more neighbors moving in and a little bit more traffic, vehicles coming up here, especially since we first moved up here. When we moved up here, we thought we were moving to the middle of nowhere, and it still feels that way most of the time, but we do get a lot of random traffic up here. And we wanted to form a privacy fence as quickly as possible, one that looked good and one that didn't hopefully cost too much money. But here we are 2 years later. Some of the trees are alive and some of them are very dead. The trees that are alive are doing great. We started with them at 3 to 4 feet tall, and now they are, well, some of them are about 8 feet tall, and that's exactly the kind of growth we were looking for with these green giant arborvitae trees. A good portion of these are about 6 feet tall, and a good portion are much taller than 6 feet. And then we have others that haven't done so well. And it's kind of sad to see, but the reality is we planted 120 trees. And anytime you plant 120 of anything, you're gonna have some successes and failures. You're gonna have growth and you're gonna have loss, death. So when some of my trees started dying, I didn't really think too much of it, but then a lot more died than I really was comfortable with. Admittedly, this is my first time growing any kind of real tree, honestly, and especially from the planting stage. And I had to do a lot of research to kind of learn how to take care of them. And one of those things was watering. We knew, and the guy who came and planted all these trees told me that we needed to water these trees. I got some conflicting information online, there's some miscommunications, and it turns out that I watered them way too freaking much. I spent about $300 on irrigation supplies to run water from our well to this section of our privacy trees and then the section behind the house. And I made sure that there's a nice ring around each tree to provide water to the root balls and help them get through the first year. And if you remember, we planted them in the winter. So obviously we weren't worried about watering them because everything was kind of dormant and everything would freeze. But that spring, I really turned on the water. And the theory from the landscaping company that put these in was that I overwatered them. But that also doesn't make sense to me. How could you say I overwatered the trees when 85% of them are thriving, growing strong and beautiful, but the others aren't? They were all in the same irrigation lines. It's the same methodology for irrigation for all of it. All 100 trees were hooked up exactly the same. So I do think that maybe the watering might have been excessive, but at the same time, I think there was some natural loss involved. Either way you put it, it is sad to lose as many trees as we lost. About 12 of the trees did not make it through the first summer. Again, I'm not exactly sure what happened, but watering definitely might have played a part. Other trees had stunted growth and are small, like this one here. And I'm kind of leaving them. I'm gonna let them do their thing. But for the dead trees that we have that never really made it, we're gonna replace these, obviously. We don't want these random holes in our tree line. But what I'm gonna be doing is buying about 15 to 20 8-foot tall trees to fill in the gaps and have them planted and fertilized to match the rest of the trees in our privacy fence. We had mentioned in the video why we didn't go with the Leyland cypress, and that's because in Virginia there's a lot of pest pressure, some parasites, whatever it might be, that were attacking those Leyland cypress trees and they were dying. The green giants, I had not noticed any kind of pest pressure or anything like that. In fact, we have deer that throughout the year go through our yard, especially behind the house, and those deer walk right past these trees, and I have not seen any noticeable damage on those trees from the deer munching on them. So I do feel good about our choice of tree. Things just didn't go perfectly the way we had hoped they would. These trees aren't looking great right now, and that's because we are kind of in the middle of the winter here, and they've been through an ice storm or two already. Those ice storms really do take a toll on these young trees, especially the tall ones that don't have much mass at the top. And I do take the time during ice storms and after ice storms to shake the trees and try to get the ice off, because when the ice sits on these trees and they're bent over like that, it's definitely it's definitely not good for the tree, I'll say that. So in trying to protect our investment of our privacy tree line here, I do my best to take care of them. We won't be watering them this spring and summer, at least unless there's like a noticeable drought in the weather up here. But for the most part, the ones that are thriving are well established. They are growing nice and tall, some of them over 8 feet tall. We're super excited about that. Later in the spring and the summer, they're gonna green back up and continue filling out and really start to provide the tree screen that we really hoped for all along. If you have any tips for pruning green giant arborvitaes, I'm all ears with those. I've been doing some research and I wanna make sure that I'm pruning or trimming, managing these trees so that they grow nice and full, especially at the bottom. At the top, we don't want them to go past 20 feet or so. And eventually we want them to fill in nice and thick down at the bottom so that people can't see onto our property. You know, our girls are playing. We don't want some random people coming up here like they always do and kind of snooping around. And like we've mentioned before, a lot of times people will just stop behind our house. They don't belong up here. They don't live up here to enjoy the view. To them, I say, go drive to Skyline Drive a half hour from here and enjoy better views. This is not where you want to be. And it kind of gets old having random strangers parked behind your house taking Instagram pictures. Yeah, that's weird. So that is a tree update, guys. We've been having comments on the old video asking how they've been growing. We've been happy with it. Like I said, we're gonna have to fill in some holes later on down the line. Probably next winter is when we'll plant those, after everything is over the 8-foot mark and starts to fill out. But for now, we're pleased and definitely optimistic about how these green giant arborvitaes are going to provide an awesome privacy screen for our property. We appreciate you guys watching. I will definitely link the old video here at the end of this video, and we'll see you guys next time.